Hello, this is a Steinway Model A. What Steinways call a Model 0 actually. It's like an old Model A, but it's 1901, slightly later, and when the Model O came out as well. So there's 85 keys instead of 88 keys, and Steinways told me that they sold it originally to Maple and Company, and it came into Steinway's London in October. It's Hamburg Steinway. This music stand I don't think is original. My polisher doesn't either, because it would be rosewood. If you look at the rest of the case, you can see rosewood veneer, typical rosewood. Polishes up, we've said many times, quite spectacularly. In fact, I'll show you one that's being polished at the moment. This is a later Model A in the polishing room. I think it's about 1920s, and you can see it's quite spectacular. There's the odd bit which he couldn't completely, I think there's one or two bits here like this one he's had to fake in where it was slightly damaged, but it's polishing up beautifully. There's the top lid. It's got to be waxed, and because it's too reflective at the moment for us, we prefer to see more of the grain. It's actually very faded rosewood. We've mentioned many times before, rosewood when it's polished doesn't really look like this. It's just a sort of a yellower colour, as it were, and it becomes a redder colour, which you'll have seen in many of our other videos. And but you can see the spectacular grain, and that gets brought out much better when it's repolished. But it's interesting to see here, this has been kept closed for a long time, and now you will see the original colour as I lift it up. So there we are, and of course the music stand was like this too. So that's the rosewood kind of colour that it'll end up at, more or less the same. We tend to go for the maximum contrasting colour, so that's obviously a candidate for repolishing. If you want to purchase a good quality piano, which it was, spectacular quality piano, without it being repolished, then please let us know, because that's obviously going to be a lot less expensive. It's 70 hours work repolishing, French polishing, and putting 30 layers of French polish on, which we've mentioned many times because it's something we love to do. You can see the top of the fall there's a different colour from that, so that's been kept closed for a long time, not used a lot. Though looking at the pedals, they've been lacquered over. Now that's not something which we'd take the lacquer off, because obviously it does go like that, where you, something they did at some stage time. We didn't always do that. There's a nice guard here. It's a beautifully designed piano. The pedals are actually very low, which is 5 centimeters from the floor, which is very useful. The legroom here is 60, so that's not a lot of legroom if you're a tall person. Because the pedals are so low, you could put something under the casters to raise it up. Even an inch would be fine, because the pedals will still not be very high. Modern pedals are about 7, so sort of over 7.5 maybe from the floor normally. So that would still, if it was an inch high, still be plenty of legroom. So there's 85 keys, plenty if you're studying the piano. You don't need 88 keys, we've mentioned this before. That's from Harrods, as you can see. The last person who had it bought it from Harrods, and it was in the family ever since. About 1954, according to their numbers, we've dated it at. I used to be able to get information direct from Harrods, but the person who used to give me that seems to have left their post, and I haven't managed to do so since. There's boxwood inlay. I just love it when that's boxwood inlay. I just think it's such a beautiful logo there, and original, so that's great. When it's polished up, that's no problem, that remains, and this will look slightly more contrasting. So not necessarily encouraging you to have it polished. If you want a high quality piano and you want to pay less, then that's fine, you could certainly do that. It's priced up as if it was repolished. So in the end we did decide to repolish the piano, because the grain is so spectacular on these Steinways. And you can see the top lid here. In the end our polisher decided he liked the colour so much he didn't want to make it darker. So it's a kind of golden rosewood colour, you might call it. And look at the contrasting grain compared to what there was before. So that does mean there's more of a contrast between the inside of the piano, which was darker, as you'll have seen earlier. He's also made the grain look more like rosewood here on this music stand, and I think it integrates very well. And so this part here is a darker rosewood colour, and then you come to a lighter rosewood colour here. So that's not what we normally do, but because the grain was so spectacular, we decided to go for that. And there's the side of the piano. You've seen that earlier on in the video. Now the pedals here were lacquered over before, and the lacquer was wearing off, and now I think they're much more integral. Now, I've also done most of the technical work. These keys have been buffed and they look absolutely perfect, ivories. And there's the boxwood inlay which we maintain after we've polished the piano. Such a beautiful style of inlay, I think. Now, the inside's in remarkably good condition. The frame is very good. Its paint's pretty much all there. And I checked the tuning pins. They're very tight. It has been restrung at some stage, possibly when Harrods had it. I think that might be about right for the colour of the strings. So it could be that Harrods did that. They had a workshop on the other side of the road. Used to, apparently, according to someone who worked there, used to transport the pianos under the road to get into Harrods. The workshop was on a sort of a green area opposite. I can't remember the name of it now. I'll try and remember and put it on the bottom underneath the video for your interest. And when you've got at this age of Steinway, you can see at the back there the date of the piano. So there it is. That's when it was left. Presumably that was casting in Hamburg, and then ended up in October in London. So it took a long time to finish off these pianos. That's 1901. The stringing's been beautifully finished off, if you can see here. That's to stop the winding come off, but it's just decorative as well, and really like to see that. That's looks like the original, so it might have been done by Steinway, although Steinway tell me they haven't had a record of it coming back into them since it was sold, so it would have been Harrods' workshop, I think, that did that. Now, we've left the key stop rail off here just because we're trying to investigate to see why the touch is light. As you'll see later on, it's almost 20% lighter than it should be. And my colleague who does all the key weighting was in charge of that, so a team of two of them do it mainly. But he says that there's too much lead in the front of the keys. They've got more lead in than usual, and up here apparently there's not normally much lead at all. I'm sorry you can't quite see it. If I lift, I'll try and lift it up. There we are. You can see the lead there. So there's apparently more lead than usual, and certainly taking the lead out makes it heavier. That's very simple to do. You don't have to add lead. Just take lead out of the front. It's not, I said simple to do, but it's actually quite you have a difficult job to get the weighting right. If you take either the whole lead out or just bits of the lead, so you see that one has got plenty of lead, so you could take one of those out and plug the hole, or you could drill out part of the lead, depending on how much you need to take out. He's very experienced at knowing how much, so that you can get the correct touch weight, which would be sort of about 50 grams here, and we'll see what it is later on when we look at the worksheet. And looking at the hammers, they are original style hammers, and he also looked at the hammers and said they are original style. So they could either be original or somebody's replaced them with the original style. And you can see the patent date on the hammer there. It's 1880. It's not very clear on some of them, but on others it's clearer. There's another one here, but you can't read the date on that one. The patent's been put on several of them actually. So holding that one up, I think it's 1880. It's patent 1880. It doesn't mean the hammer's that old. Just that when they came out with the patent of it. Sorry, I can't get this focused as well as I'd like to, but it says patent somewhere there, and it's 1880, I think. There's a huge amount of regulation to do on this. As you see, that shouldn't be resting on the felt there. It should be more like here. It's 50. The hammer blow's 50, so we reduce that to 47, and so that'll raise it up a bit. You can do that by just turning the capstans under here, but what we may well do is replace these, and I'm sure we will, because they're quite flat, so that would make it bring them up. And if it's flat, it tends to be a bit notchy when you play it, and indeed there's lots of regulation to do as well, so it's going to have a lot of work done on it. It's going to be quite time consuming, but the touch will be like a new piano when we're finished. So there's the worksheet on the piano. By the way, if you want this worksheet, if you're interested in having one, then please let me know. I'll put a link at the bottom of the video so you can find it. There's all the details that we wrote before. And last of all, we always look at the touch, which is last but not least. It's really important, and we try to get touch like a new piano. So that's spectacularly low, 31. And we've no idea why. There seemed to be too much lead in the fronts. Perhaps somebody wanted a lighter touch, but that's no problem. We can certainly get that right again. So 31 should be 51 or 50 or 47 at minimum. So that's incredibly low, and one of the lowest I've ever found. So certainly we'll be doing that as a priority. Just want to compare the tone with other pianos. This is a Bechstein Model A, also with 85 keys, made in 1904. That note's a bit out of tune. So the Bechstein was 6'1". This is a blues note, which is 5'3". At the moment, the Steinway needs voicing, so the other two sounded better than that, really. Let's listen to the top end. So that's the Steinway Model A, which is 6'2" long, made in 1901. And Steinway's called it, when I asked them about it, they called it a Model Zero because it was a transition piano, really. The newer Model A has 88 keys. The old Model A, which we've had plenty of, have 85 keys, but they have turned legs and a fretted desk as well. So this is a bit different, but spectacular tone, although at the moment the other ones have been finished off and this one's just come in. So, but you can hear the underlying richness of it. Because it's too light to play at the moment and the touch has got to be regulated, it's completely out. The let off is 1 centimetre when it should be more like 2 millimetres. So I'll make another video of this when we finish the work. If you're interested in the piano, please do let us know. Its underlying condition is excellent, so once we've done the action, it's going to be a spectacular piano. Please do write to us, info@robertspianos.com, if you'd like to purchase the piano, if you'd like us to polish it and so on. We'd love to know. Thank you very much for listening.